Give our camera 1 second to get started. There we go. And we are recording. Okay. Mr. Chair, go ahead.
Good afternoon, everybody. We'll do a quick call roll. We just 5 seconds. It is the 22nd anniversary of 9/11. 5 seconds. Remember that where we were 2 years ago. Thank you, everybody. Roll call.
All right. Jack Terry,
Yep, here.
Iskovich, Ross,
Here.
Shrimp,
Here.
Wager,
Here.
Morninghouse. Absent at this time. Mr. Chair, you have a quorum of the Ward 1 Neighborhood Advisory Board.
Thank you very much. Do we have any public comments?
Mr. Chair, I don't have anyone registered for public comment at this time. Is there anyone in the room who'd like to give public comment today? If you change your mind, there'll be an opportunity for public comment at the end of the meeting. Is there anyone on Zoom who'd like to give public comment? If you'd like to give public comment on Zoom, please use the raise hand button at the bottom of your Zoom window to indicate you'd like to give comments. I'll give you just a minute. Mr. Chair, there's no one on Zoom who'd like to give public comment.
Thank you. We already had a chance to read the agenda, review, make a motion to approve.
Before we approve the agenda, Mr. Chair,
Sorry.
it's okay. I just wanted to point out for the members that item B.4.1, ABN 24-1203, Stevenson Street abandonment. They've paused their application, so they won't be on tonight's agenda. If and when they decide to resume the planning process, they will have to come before the Ward 1 NAB, but for tonight, they won't be on there, so.
Which one was it?
B.4.1, Stevenson Street abandonment. So they won't be heard tonight, so if we could approve the agenda with that note, it would be appreciated. And there's no further changes, Mr. Chair, so if you want to take a motion.
We get a motion, please? And a second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously. Has everybody had a chance to read the minutes from the last 2 meetings? I think this. Anybody notice any changes or any updates? I didn't notice that the minutes said that I'm not the chairperson.
Oh, for the last meeting,
Mhm.
well, that's a good point. I'll make that correction.
Motion to approve with the change. Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? And we're on to A5, the council liaison report.
Okay, hello, everyone. Oh, hi, how are you? Should we let Lieutenant Guy go first, because then he can get out, or do you want a minute to organize yourself? You're organized, okay.
Let's do it.
Let's let Lieutenant Guy, before I give my update, yeah.
Come up here so I can get it built in.
Good word.
I got a couple, I don't know if we're assigned group. So we can do.
For the record, we're moving to item B1, RPD quarterly report.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
So I read, I spent the last couple hours reading some reports, just on the 3 kind of top things, which was stolen vehicles, vehicle burglaries, and crimes against the person. I was kind of looking for stuff to kind of give you guys advice or advise the public on how to avoid some of these things. I started with crimes against the person, there's kind of more, I guess, larger issue at hand versus just property crimes because people involved. But a lot of these things had a domestic nexus, so either like a triangle, 1016, which is like you have a couple, and then there's a new person in addition to this, and then there's generally friction because the old one and the new one don't get along, and the other one's in the middle. And so that has caused bottles getting smashed on people's heads, stabbing, see, pulling knives on each other, driving a car at people, spitting, things like that.
All in Ward West.
Yes, it's just.
Yeah.
Yes, and so, some of the things I look at that kind of were more random and they impact the public a little bit more, which is kind of, it seems like people have a little more friction and that happens a lot of times to eat, but a lot of like disputes are happening in kind of like service stores like 7-Eleven, CVS, things like that, where people are in parking lots and they just start having like an exchange of words, it escalates, and then there's some sort of fight or something like that. Sometimes it's an airsoft, sometimes it's an actual firearm, things like that, but, so my advice would be to kind of not go out really late at night, especially if you're intoxicated, and if you're gonna hang out in places like that, don't start conversations with people because it's gonna sound pretty quickly. And then moving on to the GTAs, so we have, I don't know if you guys are aware of it, but we just became aware of it about a month ago. Apparently there's a TikTok trend. I don't know, like I don't TikTok because I'm old, but so my kids probably know about this, but apparently Hyundais and Kias are very easy to steal. And there's like a TikTok like viral thing to steal the cars, and they show you like exactly how to do it. And so we've actually arrested 3 juveniles. If you look kind of the Lakeside block, and so there's one block, there's another block that's in Ward 2. So those are kind of our 2 higher concentration areas, and that's a very apartment dense section of the city there. And so what these kids are doing is they're going out, they break in, they use like a USB thing or something like that, like they peel off the ignition with a USB thing in there, and then they drive the car around and running gas. So that, if you guys look at the sheet, there's like a ton of Kia and Hyundai on there. So I just kind of look, where that trend and made an arrest twice on the same group of kids. And you let them out, and it's property crime, and they're like 14 or 15, so. And that's not everybody, I think some of those. A lot of the other ones I looked at, that weren't the Kia, the Hyundai, were. I think I said this before. If you barely know somebody and they're an acquaintance that maybe you socialize with during alcohol or drug use, don't let them borrow your car. That's how that. A couple were like workplace things where someone, you know, there's a spare car for the workplace thing, and they peel the keys off the wall, and like, yeah, I'm gonna go to the store, I'll be right back, and they don't come back. But a lot of times there was like kind of at least an acquaintance nexus, and then they just failed to return the car. But there were some that were just straight up. They park it, they go into their house, they come out next morning, it's gone. No suspect information, no broken glass, and things like that. And it's not always like a super nice car. So I can't really say it's like on a plane or something.
So you look clean, like joyriding types of activities.
I think that's with the TikTok stuff. I think with the Honda or Hyundai where the Kias,
Yeah.
that's more of a joyride thing and it's a viral thing. So I think we're gonna have a huge spike. We've already arrested some of the players, and I think once their court date happens, there'll probably be more of a return or surging into reoffend. But that part, yeah, certainly seems to be suggested that it's joyriding because they're found in the same complex where they live. So they steal and drive around and park them in a different spot.
And they probably was cheap.
Well, they think it's hilarious and it's fun, and they probably have videos of them doing it on the internet, and they get hits and likes. A lot of other stuff, a couple, like, in the winter time, I generally advise the nabs, don't let your car idle outside to warm up, because people will borrow it from you, and, they got a nice one car, and you can be late to work. And then the other big thing was the theft from vehicles, and so, I'm gonna call it vehicle burglaries. But by definition, if it's in the bed of a truck and someone takes something out, that would constitute burglary. You just get that from vehicle because they didn't enter the actual vehicle unless that like a camper shelf. So it's a weird like classification thing, but for the most part, if everyone looks on, sorry, we're going to hold together. On the last page, you'll see the 4175 West 4th Street, and that was responsible for like 4 separate instances of a broken vehicle window. And it was a guy who had come through San Diego. They arrested him. He said he was homeless and hungry and just wanted to find some stuff. So he broke 4 different windows in one place. A lot of these are broken window ones, and I can't say if they're locked or otherwise, but for the most part, people are leaving things visible inside the compartment of their vehicle. So I've seen hunting stuff, golf bags, laptops, phones. One was, it seemed pretty petty to me, which is simply a charger. So that charger cable and the modern cars have the USBs, and so they just broke the window to take a charger that's like $5 or whatever it is. So, again, probably kids or something like that, but, normal people don't think like a criminal, so that you think about, oh man, deductible, or you pay for the window or all this stuff, with the charger, you're like, I just prefer they stole it and move it $500 nowadays, right? And so, but the kid doesn't care, if he doesn't have to pay for the window, or she, they don't pay for it, they don't care. And if they find it, it's great, if not, they take the containers and they kind of rifle through it there. And so, it's kind of generally what happens. So my advice would be, don't have anything visible in your cars, if possible. If you have a truck or some sort of vehicle comfortable with that, and it has like a back compartment that's unlocked or accessible, don't have like your toolbox in there or a bucket of stuff, because it will get borrowed. Then not returned. Then Brett's had a question about the mates. Mates, major accidents.
Yeah.
So year to date, we are at 19, with 14 of those being fatal.
Citywide.
Citywide. And I don't have, they don't track them, which is sport specific.
Yeah, yeah,
So they just gave me like a little,
okay. So
very
we're
rough numbers there.
14 traffic deaths.
Correct.
Those count pets.
That's everything.
Okay, 14. And that's.
That's year to date.
Year to date, yes.
Yeah.
19 major injury crashes, 14 of which resulted in a fatality, at least a fatality. And sometimes it, you have 3 people in a car, something like that, you have multiple in one, but they wouldn't classify that as like, 3 accidents, with 3 people died.
Is that include pedestrians?
Yes.
I'm surprised it's that low. I am too. I understood a car accident, including a policeman thing.
Well, so for it to classify as a major accident, more or less like compound fracture, or like you're admitted to the hospital, you're not taken to the hospital that day. If you think of like a very simple metric, or like you went rush to the OR kind of thing. So it's major accident, and then you have a specialty. Well, but you're okay, which is more important than the car.
Yeah.
But people are admitted, and sometimes they don't leave. Like you might have one, I don't know. I'm just saying for the sake of discussion. Sometimes you have things like someone gets stabbed and they're in a hospital when they die, and once they're well, it retroactively becomes on homicide, but until that happens. So say if a crash, you're really messed up in a crash, and you're in the ICU, and you die 2 months later, that could bump that stat, but until that happens, this is what we have.
And how many more homicides? We get that?
I think I just looked at 14.
14 road fatalities? 14
No, homicides. Those they track differently.
Yeah.
It's not a vehicle related thing.
Well, they're usually neck and neck, so it's always a
They're
question.
generally pretty close. What's
Yeah.
more dangerous?
Yeah, which one is gonna have the better year, the worst year? I always in December, I'm always wondering, because it's a good measure.
And it goes back and forth over the years.
It really does. So we'll see, we got another quarter.
Yes. Do we have any questions about any stats or any other thing for me?
I was just curious about how you track if the accident was caused by someone being on their phone.
So
Cell phone.
that's a hard one. So if it's one of these types of crashes, so a normal crash where everyone's walking away kind of thing.
Right.
Unless someone sees it, they'll generally have a citation for that. If either one, someone rats them out, or two, like an independent, right? So if you crash into me and I say, you're on the phone, you're gonna say, no, you were on the phone, and then there's no independent with this kind of thing. But a lot of times in these major crashes, we end up towing the car, we see it, and then we'll look at like, they'll get a warrant, and look at like the black box kind of computer stuff, and then the phones in there, they'll look at that too. And so they'll look at it, they can look at the phone record and see if someone,
Well, that's what we can.
it's really on the phone, or this or that. And
Right, at the time of the incident, if you want.
yeah, they generally, so the major, the minor ones, I don't think they look at it as much, but the big ones, they do, they kind of look at everything.
Thank you.
They even have a little, it's really cool, it's called a Pharaoh. And it's like a little laser thing you put on a tripod, and it does like a scan, and so if I had it like in the corner, it would do a 3D scan of all of us in here. And then you can like bring that up, in like a courtroom, or like a presentation, you can see like kind of has like measurements like to the centimeter of how far apart we are. So yeah, pretty good stuff.
So, special events season,
Yeah, so
yeah. How to go other than the base camp, which, remember the base camp one? The electric dance music one? That was terrible.
those are always terrible.
It was-
Anything with the EC, so
Yeah.
I hate the calls, because it's basically celebrating alcohol.
Yeah.
And normal people go home at about 10 or midnight, not that bad, after that, pretty bad. The EC or EDM stuff,
Yeah.
dance music, generally have, very provocatively dressed underage girls
Yeah,
with lots of synthetic drugs.
Yeah.
Alcohol overdoses, and then just
yeah.
lots of problems.
I think what it caused, and I've never seen this before, this is my feedback, is, I didn't go down there that night. Is they put up a perimeter fence with riprap kind of on the fencing to fence everyone out. So it was a nice Saturday night and everyone was fenced out of this thing. And I think you have a lot of clustering of people who who are deprived of this park, they're part of it, that's where I was getting nervous with the crowds. Cause it was cold, the bridge was closed, it went all the way, almost all the way to, edge of Bicentennial, all the way to the, Virginia Bridge.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was, I got the video on the and so that was big. But also, people asked me, so I got asked, that Glow Plaza one that got canceled, the Latino festival,
Yeah, sorry.
were they getting any renown?
Fridays and Saturdays.
Yeah,
Very
yeah,
lucky.
yeah.
So
Yes.
Yes.
People wanted,
I'm finally there.
people wanted to know if Reno PD, advised, what the Jay, that it was not because we've never heard of that before.
So there was one, it was, I think, 2 years ago. And I can't remember the name, it was like Grupo Firme or something.
Okay,
like that.
okay.
And that was the Aces Stadium. and
Okay.
I think it was like,
It got rough,
powder cake on a banana peel going toward that.
Okay,
It was
okay,
bad,
okay, okay,
And I have no security, so if it was a comparable group.
Yeah,
it would be
yeah,
expensive, but
yeah,
I can't say
yeah.
for sure, but that one was really, really bad, because they only had like 30 security guys for like 15,000.
Yeah. This one got held off and I think it's gonna be in litigation, but people were furious that, yeah, and then the last one is, and I'm looking for my EDM videos to show you every time I stop, I don't know if I see it. Is the Silver Legacy, a Reno Ward 1 resident got moved coming out of the Silver Legacy parking lot. $7,000 cash,
What day was that?
I can't remember.
I can send you all the
Okay,
details, the
you
exact
you
date.
send it, if you made
Yeah.
a better specific chat about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You saw, she went through this a bit.
Yeah,
And
did
it's
she win that in the casino?
Yeah, she won a jackpot and then walking out of the Silver
So,
Lake, she got
I
one.
can't say specifically, but generally what happens is sometimes you have people, they just kind of watch.
Yeah,
And they'll look for a local
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
It's like a decent chunk of money, and then they'll like either do first match or they'll.
yeah, she was physically.
She was assaulted,
Yeah.
she was strangled by.
Yeah, Yeah, it was an elderly.
Yeah.
And, I want to know information about it. It hasn't come posted to me because on Wednesday, I'm gonna be asked to uphold a decision that someone else should have their privilege license taken away. And this is this liquor store. Well, if the Silver Legacy is having elderly women rolled in the parking lot, maybe their privilege license should be taken away. I don't know how, we're big on this, but I hope to have that information before I'm faced with this other decision. That's in my update, but anyway, so, yeah, just, it happened, it's not in one. Yeah, here's an example of the fencing that was all along the river along that night.
So it's like a privacy screen on.
Yeah, but it really clustered people. And this is how people got to spend Saturday night out there. Yeah, they were getting little, anyway, so. Special events are over, Silver Legacy, privilege licenses. Yeah. Oh, the shooting down at Virginia Street and Arroyo.
But like those.
Well, yeah, in Reno Fine Arts
Sure.
parking lot.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's.
I think that was a bike, I think that was a bike.
I heard the Jason Waffles, does that sound right?
Is it?
That sounds right.
Yeah, I think it was some, so,
It's like, 4 weeks ago, it's fine.
yeah, yeah, that sounds right, yeah, I think that's, so it's HAs, so Hells Angels and Mongols.
That's right, yeah,
They're opposing
Yeah.
actions,
okay,
and I couldn't tell you how they met up, but
yeah,
they were there at the wrong place, wrong time, there was 2-on-1, and then
yeah,
they were dividing and shooting.
yeah, midday, because I rode my bike by there 2 hours before. Because I was on morning bike ride, but people are concerned about, you know, we got the bike vest coming in, is it this weekend? No,
I think we have 2 or 3 more weeks for the street fights.
yeah, because people remember what happened.
I have to say, in context of the question about the J and the Latino Fest, you know, it's like, I think it's the balance.
Yeah, because the J is the one that, houses the street fight down.
Yeah.
And generally, we've had, things like we never had problems, but because they make so much money in that, with all the vendor booths and everything, they generally behave because it makes them money.
Okay,
So that's what we've been worried, and we follow, our intelligence center follows stuff nationally.
okay,
And so we had next to Arizona, but there was like a big brawl down there, and so we had to kind of heightened alert up here. But when we look at it, you know, kind of, I don't wanna say like a truce, but they kind of like, most of them behave because they all make money.
well, I just to share with you, people are really, people are so edgy about, you know, and this, you know, that, and then this one ending up our season, so. You guys.
Every
On it more.
street vibes and August nights and crawl, I'm in
Okay,
everyone. So Dining Festival, I don't worry. Wing kickoff, I don't worry.
balloons,
Balloons, I don't worry. Veterans Day Parade, I don't worry. Crawl, I worry. Street vibes, I worry. I used to worry about August nights, but we changed that dynamic. 30 years.
good. That's always,
As we move to 6 words, how does that, we probably don't know the answer today, obviously, but as we move to 6 words, how does that impact the police department's reporting, tracking?
We'll just have a box. And so however they map it, and I know there's been some proposals on where to slice the pie kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so that will get its own word, its own data. And when I look through this stuff, it doesn't change a ton because of the location, like the themes, a lot of the time are the same, because it's mind numbing, but I already get some reports for these things, just so I can give you guys kind of more accurate conclusion. And it's like a lot of time, I'm like, how would WDB, and I know it's not nice, but it's like, yeah, I had my car unlocked with the windows open, and my iPad was still on my passenger seat. I'm like, so I'm not saying you should have had it stolen. But it doesn't mean it was a good idea to leave your car on your seat, right? Like, yeah, there's parts of town where I should walk around at 3 AM, like with a fistful of hundreds doing this. Doesn't mean I should have something bad happen to me. But it's also a bad idea.
And I appreciate that. And one of the things that, I don't know if it's probably the year, but I do like seeing the change in statistics in your.
Yeah, and so we try, so it's kind of like Bible, right? Like with the whole anything. And so crime trends pop up. We, you know, focus efforts to address them, it kind of dies down, the next one pops up. And so we just kind of, we're always like, kind of retroactively chasing the dragon, so to speak. So this, like right now, it's Kia's, so we're around that, we're making some progress, that'll go away, and something good that someone else always does.
actually, the Kia's, have been sued and did a class action. So
TikTok,
that's the
Yes.
elections, yeah,
TikTok.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
They
like,
have to stand as a federal agency. House patrol, last question, house patrol do,
in which aspect?
are they resourced enough?
No.
Yeah, are they
No.
resourced in any way to
Uh,
be 24/7 doing speed enforcement?
Nope, I am short staffed, I hire overtime almost every day. There's about 100 cops less than when I got hired 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Our population is almost doubled, our geographic responsibility is almost doubled. We struggle with recruitment, we struggle with retention. No one wants to be a cop. I would say it was kind of around first. The Obama administration, things kind of changed for us. There are a lot of people in kind of stuff. When the economy tanks, we'll be sought after again, because it's a good job, like medical or grocery or shipping. But right now, people can make comparable money and they'll have to everybody hate them and worry about getting sued and have to fight people every day.
And what about traffic? What are they doing?
They're also understaffed because I think I was on motors in 05, 09, and I was on 26 motors and ran up to like 8 or 9.
So everyone knows when I came on, patrol and traffic had merged, and that's not a good combination. When you're running homicides, the same neck and neck with.
Yeah,
So,
we're not, so now it's under the support division, so patrol is kind of its own.
Yeah.
And then traffic goes to support, and then, investigations is different, so we're kind of siloed a little bit, that probably changes. She did some rework on that. So the wages are not competitive. I agree there, so. For me to not say I make a lot of money would be ridiculous, but, my contract has changed, so I'm, in 2010, they changed the rules for retirement, and then in 2015, they changed them again. So lower percentage, longer time, so now we're hiring people, they get a 2.5% per year, like. Retirement percentage, but they have to be 30 or 55. I'm 44, and if I had to fight somebody in the dirt and gravel, my elbow would hurt, my knee would hurt, and I'd probably be out one. And that's a good case. And 10 years from now, I would be retired medically. And so it's not as appealing in that aspect, and that's timing for me. But we've also had a huge tech surge in the 20 years that I've been on. And so modern kids are like afraid to touch people. And so I'm sure we could take a little field trip. I could probably find some people that didn't get to the bathroom on time in their pants. And I would say, here's some gloves, go grab that guy for $30 an hour. You guys are all laughing at me. So when that's a component of the job, it's just not as appealing if I can work from home and program and do stuff like that, make more of the same. So as far as like regionally, we're pretty competitive. Our housing has not helped things, because, I don't think we can get a house for a long time. You were hired and stuff, it's, it's one, you have the pricing, and you have the interest, so it's like two strikes against you for housing. And I'd be a millionaire consultant if I didn't answer, to how to solve that problem, but it's just not as appealing as a profession for some people. But we did, assign a recruiter, I think, about a year ago. And so we've always kind of done like colleges and stuff like that, but I think we're looking out, a little more military stuff, kind of branching out of state now, because a lot of times we would just look globally, and that's the African rules is different.
Yeah.
Lead through.
One more question.
Yeah, firstly, I'm moving. Thank you for saying yours. But I was at, what is it, St. Vincent's, the charity one more a couple months ago, and apparently a homeless couple was fighting, and there were 4 cruisers and 12 officers. And I was just wondering what the policy is, why there's so many there, and there's other stuff coming. Just what the
So we
policy.
only saw 4 cars, those would be training pairs. So we have like a continuous hiring thing, and right now we have 10 or 12 people in training, and so you have a training officer and a rookie. And it's downtown, a lot of people training downtown.
But like myself, trying to do public safety is just,
Well, and we have, and here's the beauty of BNS, there's no right answer. Right, so if there was one guy, why are there more cops? And if there's too many, why are there so many cops? I got something better to do, and so there's kind of like, we're always like in that percentage, but training is my best guess. If I can get that, or is a significant event, they cause a larger response, and then it kind of scales down as things.
in terms of violence or.
Yeah, so we try to do at least more than what's the problem. So if there's a fight with one person, 2 go. If there's a fight with 10 people, we send this in and say, okay. That place kind of has generally it's a multi-person fight and things like that.
Well, I hear it's coming from conversation, I've been here 10 years now, I don't know what to say, but I'd like to say something that could depend on y'all or being stretched as far as.
Yeah, we appreciate that, but we're, Yeah, just keep voting for more of us.
Yes, sir.
Who would I speak to at RTD? There was an incident, next to my office. Where the street was shut down by a business. They just took homes out there and openly drinking, blocking fire accesses, alleys. After 3 or 4 calls. We finally got 3 police units. They walked up with the cones and ignored everything else that was going on. Because I have video of 4 children running around with parents getting hammered, music just blaring out of their vehicles and whatnot. And RTD just looked at them and then left after they moved the cones. I'd like to find out more about that before I go to code enforcement about the business.
It was like, they were having a party in a parking lot, or like what?
No, on the street.
Just on the street?
Yeah, it was Quincy Street.
Okay.
They shut down the street, put up their own cones, and we're doing like a little car show. It was peaceful and whatnot, but most businesses have to spend a lot of money doing permits and
Yeah.
things like that. We called because every other time they've done this, they start doing burnouts and stuff, and not 30 minutes after RTD left and left them all there drinking with their children, they were doing burnouts. So
What day was this, sir?
I'm sorry,
What day was this?
this was Saturday night.
About what time?
They had the street closed off at 7. And it was still, they were still out there after midnight. I think RTD showed up somewhere between 11 and midnight.
I can, check and all.
Okay. I appreciate that. I just wanted to get some more information, because that's what we contact and code.
Yeah, it's hard to say, because I don't, some new information, me, but I'll research it and figure out what I can pass it on.
I mean, that's just wrong, but if you go out and buy it's the one base that you can't do.
Yeah.
If they would turn down the base piece of it, there was something I just had with the Parks Mercury last year, they were having. From the Keystone. And for up until midnight, here this. Before saying, okay, we're. It's usually always the base that's just going to be inside.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not permitted. Right, they probably shouldn't be.
Thank you for coming, and we'll see you next quarter.
Yes,
You're not going on rotation or anything?
I'm good till January, and
Okay,
then
that's
I might be gone, so.
okay.
Vacation at the time. Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm gonna wait and see, but I'm technically eligible next week, but, my tax guy says I have to wait a little bit.
You guys haven't seen it yet.
Oh, for everyone's benefit, I have 1,500 hours. I'm sorry, I usually showed up more days than not, so.
Thank
We
you.
want to see this. If you're on January, we want you on January now.
Well, you.
It's funny,
I'll come in, I'll be in like some shorts. Thank you.
Thanks.
Did we do it to, Director, Ilya?
Sure.
Yeah. I think it's that's what cover that.
Is there a presentation chair? Is that it?
Yeah, more or less. Okay. You can have, I think it's where the camera points. We have that, oh, we do have.
Yeah, we do. So you can sit wherever you want and it'll,
Can we turn that one on too? Just.
that one's not connected. I can't turn that one on, unfortunately, no. Only this guy.
Test as well.
That's right. All right, don't hold me on that. We've got some of our business cards and then also a little, what we'll be talking about to connect the community for feedback. So as you go out, feel free to grab one. Any questions you think of after I present. I'm here to present about the Parks Recreation and Open Space Plan. Nathan Elliott, Parks and Recreation Director for the record. As you may or may not know, we're going through an update of our Parks and Recreation and Open Space Plan, or whatever they call it, PROS plan. Jerry's sick of hearing about it, right, Jerry? but we're getting close, we're getting close to the end, we've gotten a lot of public feedback, we're kind of at the last step now where we wanna get. After identifying the needs that we've got over the last year or so, we wanna make sure that as we move towards implementation, that we have the right things prioritized. As a part of, adoption of the plan, which we hope will happen in October with city council. It's gonna go to Recreation and Parks Commission in early October, and then we'll take it to the council at the end of October. So, want you to share with friends, neighbors, take the surveys yourselves. But I wanted to take you through the website and explain a little bit about the plan at a high level. So if you can slide down there. Right here, if you go to reno.gov/engage, these are a lot of the, projects and things that are in, for public feedback. Right there is Pro's master plan. If you click on that, it's gonna take you to a website built specifically for public feedback, on this process. So, this is called a SharePoint, not SharePoint, I messed it up, I'm never gonna remember now. Something points. Social pinpoint, that's it. Social pinpoint, and, it really is designed to gather that feedback. So if you go down just the landing page here that talks about the master plan, talks about our update, has a little video about some of our staff and some of the programming and services that we provide. Please again, watch all of this at your leisure. I want to spend a little more time on a presentation, which, our council members have each gone through individually. And we'll show you a little bit of that. There's our guide there at the bottom that talks about even further what we have as a part of our current offerings. So if you go back up to the top. The next link is the planning process. So if you hit planning process there, it's talking about the step that we've gone through as a part of this. For those of you who don't know, I've been here between 5 and 6 months. So I'll almost get to be a half-year-old soon, then I'll move to full years after that. But it's been a project that's been going on for a while. And so it's talking about where that started with the project initiation, the guiding principles, the vision, things like that, and then developing the plan, which we've all but completed, just waiting for those last pieces of feedback, and then phase 4 is to finalize that plan and then build an implementation plan that will make sure that this thing doesn't sit on the shelf and not get used. And we end up finding out that, like we did this time, that the things in 2008 that we didn't do are still true today. So, my goal and my accountability for this document will be to move those things as prudently and as appropriately as possible without losing the plot. So, if you go back up to the top. This next link shows the opportunity for you to download the plan, and there's also a presentation in English and Spanish, but if you click on the English one for my benefit. Scroll down, there's a slideshow there, but you can also download the full draft underneath there. You don't have to do that for this, but we'll go through this slideshow, which is kind of a, I don't know, we'll call it 10,000 foot view of what the plan entails. It's 250 pages, so significant document with a ton of data. If you are really into it, I challenge you to accept it. There is no prize except for the feeling of a job well done. So as we go through this, if we can click on that and slide over one more. I'll skip a few of these, but just to give you an understanding of the methodology, it's not, we didn't do one thing. We didn't say, hey, national standards are this, and we're way behind, and because of that, we need to build all of these parks and fund it at all of these levels. That was one of the components of it, but it wasn't the only thing we did. We also looked at our current inventory. We also looked at the demand for that inventory and the demand for new things that we don't have. So instead of it just being one thing or the other, it's kind of a three-legged stool approach to borrow that phrase, but it's got those three things. So if you look through the plan, if you do on your own, or if you go through this slide, understand that it wasn't just what we needed specifically. We also compared other cities and benchmark cities as well. So next slide. This is an example of where there are some shortcomings in our inventory based on standards. What you see in those highlighted columns there is what our current city shortfalls are, but then also including, if you just took our city, you didn't consider county parks or school fields that are a part of our inventory and a part of accessibility for our community. It just kind of differentiates those things, so it's not trying to spin the data into an absolute nightmare, but there is a reality that there are shortcomings, but we want to make sure that everybody understands and considered as many of the factors as possible when we talk about the needs assessment. Go on, keep going. So as a part of the initial stakeholder and community engagement portion, the three feedbacks that we consistently heard were take care of what you got. So item one there, we've got a lot of amazing spaces. Some of them need some TLC and some upkeep, and then maintaining them on an ongoing basis so that they're inviting, safe, and usable. So that was the first and consistent thing that we received. The second one is after we can get to that point, we want more. We want to have, especially in some of our developing areas in the south and in the north valleys, and then as we go west a little bit, people want those same opportunities to have equitable access to the same spaces that the folks in our more mature and longer existing parts of town have access to. So, and then the third thing is to start planning for the future, making sure that there's equitable and reliable access to that as a part of it. Where we've been left behind, we got to play catch up, but let's not get, into that situation again as we go forward. One of the things that might be a little bit confusing is you're gonna see a top 3, a top 5, a Big 10, all these different numbers. So we'll go through those and try to break them down, but that could be something you can get a little bit lost on. So a vision statement that was created for the document. Feel free to again come back to this and read it at your leisure. Some of the master plan goals. Number one is it's one thing to identify the need, but what are we gonna do about it? What are some of the options to fund it? As you go through there, it's hard for me to read from here, but, talking about repairs, it's gonna talk about trails and open space, which this document doesn't have a lot of specifics in there, except to identify we probably need to have a stronger open space plan. And how do we turn that open space into an asset instead of a liability? So that's a part that isn't specifically in here, but it does address, especially with trails, that we're gonna adopt a regional trail model. And we're gonna work with other entities in the area that are working on trails so that it's not something that we're self-contained, we can connect to the regional area. So you'll see that in the top 10, then also as you look forward to building parks in those areas. So again, we don't get behind, we need to start buying land and spaces so that we don't get left with whatever the developer has left. We want to have parks that fit our needs, and if we do that, sometimes you get tucked against the freeway or against the mountain, it's hard to develop and it's way more expensive. So rather than stepping over dollars to save nickels on property, maybe buy the rent property in advance and then have that space as our city grows into it. So general recommendations, access for all, multi-generational activities, water recreation, aquatics is a big piece, comfort and safety, making sure again that the spaces that we do have are inviting and accessible for everybody. And then adding shade. Take the big challenge of building parks, and then they're hard to use in the summer because we don't put shade in as a part of that. Now we obviously want to have trees, but some of our playgrounds get real hot and they're not fun to play on when it's that way. So making shade a priority is a part of that. And I think the feedback we received were pretty clear that we're not doing a great job of that. So as we go forward, it needs to be something that we're considering.
Do you know how expensive those sales are? Because I wondered that myself. They put in some new children's parks out a while, and I thought in that heat, wouldn't it just be those triangles?
Yeah, we've been putting those.
Yeah, and we are putting it, we put in $250,000 this year, which is just gonna tickle it. I mean, we're not gonna fix it, but you're right. I think there's been some probably belief that there's gonna be challenges or, maybe the snow will collapse them and things like that. But I think technology's changed, standards have changed, and I think we need to not hide behind those things and
Maybe have put them up on the summer, put them up in.
yeah, and so we're looking through that, but I think we've just kind of treated it as an afterthought, so which we have some great tree canopy and coverage and a lot of parks from the trees, but there's a lot of our newer areas that don't. So I think that is something you'll see, and we're gonna try to continually make that a part of our annual maintenance and improvement process. All right, moving on. So now the big 5, we've been to the big 3 and the top 10, and now we're to the big 5. So these will be broken down a little bit as we go on. So won't touch on them too specifically, but if we can go forward to the next one, I think it'll start with keep going. Number 1, here it is. So number 1, once again, is how do we fund it? What are some of the strategies? I think the plan overall identifies about 21 strategies to do that, including, everything from grant writing to a parks district, to bonding, to special assessments, things like that in different park areas. trying to utilize community resources, that aren't our own to make sure someone else can do it. If we do that, and then instead, if we don't do that, then we do something else with that money and redirect it into a state company, where we don't have a lot of funding. So, I think that's the biggest outcome for this document, especially over the next few years, is to walk all of those challenges and ideas down, until we find out where the wall is, or find out what we're comfortable with, and present that to our leadership and the council to say, yeah, let's do this one, or let's push on this spot, let's put our flag in the ground here, if we really wanna to fund parks. I think we need to present solutions. I think right now we're living in a solution, which is, what we're getting, but I think we can look to be better, certainly, but I think funding is definitely a real issue. We heard, we talked about it right before me, that they were cut in half basically from the recession. I think we're in essentially the same place. About 23.5 million was the budget in 2008. And we're currently at 16 million, and nothing got cheaper. And we didn't lose parks in that initiative, like we've taken on more. So it's time to start looking at that pragmatically and being smart with what we have, but then finding sources to fund more and fund better. So if that's what everybody wants, it sounds like most people do. All right, moving forward. Number two, improving existing and develop the new parks. So again, once we can take care of what we got, how do we get more? And so going through the slide to the next one, I think there's another. It's there. Here's a map giving us an example of first off where our inventory of parks is. That's the North Valley, so it seems pretty sparse, and that is correct. All those red dots are mostly in the central kind of corridor of town. So keep going, Tyler. Our parks all pop in there in the middle part of town, as I was saying, and then it'll go to the south area, and you'll see some similarities to the north. It's a little thinner. So just identifying again, like where are our, and keep going, there's another map that will show where there's some holes in our service areas. You know, and you see some large space where there's not a city park, there's not access. Now there are county parks in those areas, so this is where the city that I just came from had basically it's grown up similar to like the North Valleys and southern areas, where in about 15 years it went from 1,200 people to 70,000 people. So it's hard for infrastructure to keep up, especially with antiquated practices. The RTT residential construction tax caps out at $1,000 or 1%. And so to give you an example of what it takes to build a park, a 5-acre park in DeMonte Ranch was 3.8 million in 2008. So if we want to build a 5-acre park now, it stands to reason it's not going to be 3.8 million. And our largest RCT fund at this point is about $5.5 million. So that's pretty bleak, but we got to be honest about that. You know, that's where we're sitting right now. So the mechanism we have to build parks is not going to work. So again, one of the recommendations in that first point is how do we find that funding? There are other resources in Nevada, including development impact fees, that allow us to adjust with inflation and costs. So we can be reflective of what's currently our environment. So we need to, again, lock that thing down too, and there'll be resistance along the way, but we have to come to decision points for those things instead of just kind of hiding from them. So again, these maps kind of show holes, and if you've been listening to council, it's definitely part of that ward's concern that they are having to go a long way to reach parks. Trend in development now is that when it comes to pocket parks and regional or neighborhood parks, a lot of the developers are building that because most parks that have a playground and very similar amenities to a park on the other side of town, you're not going to drive for that park specifically. So how do we make our resources more about regional resources that people can drive to, and use development to help some of our plans to build a smaller area so you can walk and go to a playground and things like that. Generally it's for the people right there. So we need to be a bit of both. We need to take everything as it comes, but I think strategy is important here as we have seriously limited resources to build new spaces. That's it in the southern area. And then this is just showing some concepts of, you know, how we can reimagine some of our existing parks. That is something we can do as a part of the next few years with residential construction tax, is to upgrade facilities where new growth has come in around it and expand and build new amenities that are probably, I don't know if you want to say modernized, but more impactful in the moment. I know impactful is not really a word, but you know what I'm saying? You know, pickleball instead of tennis, refurbishing spaces, things like that. RCT does have some flexibility in that regard, but as we do that, here are some considerations that they had, so we're going forward through here relatively quickly. So this is just a small kind of pocket neighborhood park, playground, few amenities, maybe a splash pad. And that park exists. This park exists, Raleigh Heights in North Valleys. It's one of those parks that's been around a long time, part of the early growth in that area, and it's starting to feel it. So how do we kind of reimagine that to make it a place that's inviting and serve that community as we still have limited resources? How do we make those resources better? There's Miguel Rivera Park, we're just reimagining that. There's already some things moving there through CDBG. But again, how do we make that space as usable as possible? A little bit of a look on, you know, making it clear what's a city park and where you're at and what the entrances look like. This isn't a huge part of the plan for me, but it is one of the slides they chose to put in there, so I talk about it. Keep going. A big thing, number 3 is the river corridor. Right now, there's an RFP out, RFQ, and we're actually interviewing folks to talk about what our river corridor could look like. Parks is just a big part of that. We have some amazing spaces along the river that provide access to people. And we want to make sure that as that plan goes forward, or any plan goes forward along the river, that parks are considered. And we make sure that improvements include improvements to the park, including access. It doesn't negate access to the parks if any development goes in. So this is a big section of in the plan because it's a big part of what we're doing in Rio in general. So yeah, this is more of that. There's some concept things here, but to be clear that any concepts you see in here are not like, hey, this is going to happen. This is just an idea to give people a visual. So as you see the river walk and as you see the Lee Plaza, understanding that that's not what it's going to look like necessarily, but here are some ideas we could look at for it, and it's important to consider that kind of reimagining concept. Keep going, just quite a few views of the river area there.
They usually every summer come through, and you're like right out here, you can't see the river anymore because the bushes and shrubs have grown up so large. They usually come through, the problem that I have is it makes a lot of homeless that want to be on East Third Street. Now they're camping along the river because it's so thick.
Okay.
And I usually send pictures to Reno Direct and then to contact the safety team, but it's just not, doesn't seem to be working.
Yeah, we had a very challenging year this year with growth. So, but yeah, well, I mean, aware of it and what can we do about it, starting to think as we have issues that expand beyond parks and become a little more citywide and touch people who don't necessarily use our parks daily, but it's affecting your daily life and impacting your view of how the city's serving it. We're trying to use the resources we do have for now, but that's an indication of, you know, where we could touch an area like that maybe once a year. Maybe we can start, if we can increase some funding and generate some ability to maintain it, we can touch that 2 or 3 times a year so that it doesn't start to grow back. But
when I first got here, the guy who, a couple of people that I befriended, walking here every day, twice a day. They told me about the recession and how there used to be 60-something parks people out there down to 18.
yeah,
And they spent all their time, they couldn't manage the parks because of the homeless. You know, the litter that they spent picking up from your camps to finally get.
well, I wouldn't say it's specific to homeless, but I think it's, yeah, I mean, I think it is like generally one person is trying to oversee 6 to 8 parks. The national standard is somewhere between 16 and 20 acres. And so they're doing 6 to 8 parks, just to give you an idea of the boots on the ground. Then you have an irrigation team, then you have park rangers, so it's a lot of elements. Yeah, just absolutely. No, absolutely, that's okay, we appreciate it. So expand and create additional recreation, so this is where it touches on programming. You know, are we doing the right things, just because we've done something for 20 years, it's still the right thing to do? So it kind of examines that and puts into place an assessment as we go through the years. So it's not just, hey, we only think about this every 5 years. Ideally, when we do an update to this plan, we're thinking about it as far as not only assessing what the needs are, but assessing the progress from the plan. Like, here was the strategy. Did we implement these? Did we walk these down to the point where we got a yes or a no, or it's not legal, those types of things. There will be assessments in place that will try to hold us accountable to that as we go through that process. So it doesn't mean the world will change just because we approve this document, but it will have an assessment to say, here are the things that we have done, here's what we could do with more, or here's what we can do if we approve these types of measures. So that's a big part of this piece, but then also that allows us to add programming and special events and activation in the spaces and trying to understand what people continually want instead of what we thought was popular. You know, in my last phase, we had a salsa contest that was about an 18-year process, and sometimes you gotta kill it before it dies. It was a part of our culture, but attendance was diving and it wasn't as popular as it was. So how do you kind of reinvent yourself? And I think that'll be a part of this piece, is that programming can't be just year after year, fund it, it fails, it starts to drag. We have to start thinking about what our community needs as communities' needs change, so.
Are the Parks and Recs connected at all with the ambassador program? Because I was told months ago that they were supposed to.
Downtown ambassadors?
They were supposed to come all the way down to Booth Street Bridge to help monitor the unsheltered that are at the river or under.
So there's a clean and safe team that we're a part of, is especially part of the park rangers. We have two, we will have 3 park rangers starting next week. Again, for about 87 parks, but yeah, but we are trying to focus on the river corridor as well to try to support that effort to, you know, not target anything, but just make sure the rules are being followed, so it's an inviting state. All right, move forward here. And this is talking about planning again for the future, like how do we make sure we get the right land, not just whatever's left, as a part of open space requirements. So when we're looking at the northern part and the southern part, you know, are we looking at the right spaces to build what we need? So again, we don't have to be overly creative or divide our resources. I mean, when it comes to parks, the more you split it, you know, 100-acre park is, I don't know if it's exponentially, but it's much easier to maintain than a 101-acre park. So using that logic to say, like, having 2 fields in a park is not going to be as valuable as having 8 fields in one park when it comes to maintaining it effectively at a high standard and then efficiently with the dollars we have. So we've got to make good decisions now so that in 20 years, we're not talking about why we didn't. Right, we're getting close. So that's kind of what I just said. All right. So that's the end of this presentation. So if we go back up to the top there, important part of it, again, that is just kind of an overview of the overall plan, which again is about 250 pages, which I just finished reading. It was awesome. It's so good. There's really good data in it that backs up the assertions though, so it is important to have it so that when it is challenged, we can say, well, this is the method to the madness. Doesn't mean we'll all agree on it, but this is what we're going for, and this is why. So next we have an online survey there that talks about, once again, if you can open that, Tyler, on the English one, come up there. So as you go through this survey, it's going to really focus once again on implementation. So we've gone through and done the needs assessment. So here's the needs, here's our current inventory, here's the opportunities, here's some ways to try to solve those through funding. But now, like, let's make sure what we think is important in the right order. So with limited resources currently, what should be our first effort? So it gives folks an opportunity to rank those up and down for the top 4 there, which are essentially those top 5. These out purchasing parks, and then right here you can talk about what improvements and what are you willing to support. So what are people willing to support as a part of those funding solutions? You know, just getting a little bit of dip our toes in it. Like, yeah, I might go for a park district if it meant we could mow our grass more often, or we could have more aquatic centers around the area, things like that. Or you know, I'd be open to increasing fees for the people that use the services rather than supplementing or subsidizing for people who might not. So are you open to the idea of non-resident fees, people who don't contribute to the tax base in this way? So it's all of those, just seeing what people's appetites are as a part of this, because that will be a big part of next year. And so having some data to back that up would be important. Next piece is kind of what are needed the most? What are the things? The typical responses we're seeing earlier: flat fields, aquatics facilities, trail access, which again is kind of a regional thing, but we want to make sure that it's important and that we don't screw up a regional plan. So as we go into planning areas and people are building, We don't wanna make sure everything's walled in, so no one can get out to the trails, so, but you get an opportunity to select what's important to you there. And then on the next one, is a part of the downtown, the Truckee River corridor, what are some things you'd like to make sure are included and thought of as that's redone, or as that is imagined? So, next one down. And then what are some of the programming things you'd like to see, you know, if you would choose to participate in something, this is one of the services, one of the few city services and government services that you get to choose to participate in, you don't have to, if something didn't go wrong if you're talking to us usually. You had a choice, so, what are those things that you would like to see added or enhanced or maintained is important, so. And then what kind of park size are you interested in, you know, do you want something, again, that's walkable, if you don't have that, I imagine you want that. If you do have that, it's probably not as important, so. Seeing where people, again, where the appetite is to build large facilities, special use facilities, things like that, you know, like to have things as a part of your roadways and trailheads and things like that. Right, and then I think is that the last one?
Mhm.
That's the last one, so, essentially, that's the website, it'll be up for, you know, another 2 to 3 weeks. I was hoping to catch everybody last week or last month, but it got canceled, so. But I wanted to make sure that, I'll be able to share what I could with you and answer any questions, so at this time. Any questions? Just don't ask here, but Jerry knows more than I do.
And thank you for coming, I appreciate it. Sure, to give you a few questions, I'll read through it and have plenty, but.
Yeah.
Few things to think about, maybe. One is in terms of funding sources, if somebody's going to use a park for a special event and charge an entry fee, I'd like to know that entry fee is coming back to the park. Right, okay, and not necessarily to the event organizer or wherever.
Probably won't happen.
The other thing is, land acquisition. Look at tax sales. A great example, look at Fin Zero Riverside Drive. I know Washington County does tax sales annually, and people don't get tax and pick up parcels all over the place for millions of dollars. So maybe that's something that, from a parks perspective, maybe we can get some lands that would be beneficial over, you know, but I'm not sure if it's something they do annually. I think it's coming up in the first quarter.
So great.
Do you mind emailing?
Appreciate it.
Yes, you bet.
Thank you. Next.
Is there anyone on, Nick, do you have any questions for Director Lulia?
No, I don't. Thank you.
I think you're.
It's safe to say that's the best presentation you got all year. But it's okay to even five. Well, I'm gonna tell my mom. Okay. So these are some QRs in Spanish and English. If you have neighbors, you know, who, you know, hey, this is an opportunity to have some public input on the parks process. I'll leave these here, just scan it with your phone, I'll take you right to it. You can also get some paper versions, but just email me if you need anything. My business card's right here. If you have anything that you thought of for the next few days, I know it's a lot to digest and then think of all the solutions. So please open communication with the NABs, and hopefully we'll be coming back over the next, you know, 6 to 8 months with some ideas of where we can put some new dressing on some of our parks that have been around a long time, is basketball courts and reimagining horseshoe pits that maybe aren't getting used. Just start thinking, and you're walking around and seeing things. My email's open. I don't know how to turn it off. So. Thank you all.
Thanks. Oh,
We
go back to.
back into order, back to A5, I think is where we left off.
Sure, yeah, that's great to have both of them here, it's nice to have them here.
Yeah, sure.
So I'll just run through a few things, one, redistricting. That takes its final vote on Wednesday. I have not been in support of the redistricting, and I won't vote for it. They do need a 5/7 vote, so, Councilmember Ebert has not voted for it either. I, wanted a hands-off policy by the council, and I didn't see product that delivered that. And in fact, there was some horse trading at at the desk, to get that 5-7 vote with Councilmember Dewar getting it to her ward. Some buildings, apartments, and she gave up some apartments to get a casino and other things. I found it very distasteful. But you wanna read about real redistricting battles, read about LA's redistricting this last year. So it's a controversial thing, you know, all things considered, I would like to see the charter say that we're gonna have the charter committees, the redistricting committee, and they bring it to the council and they go up or down votes with 3. You know, and that's what I wanted, because the hands-off attitude was clearly not there, and one thing that I object to is, each of the incumbents, 2 of whom were appointed, are not in a ward with someone else, but Councilmember Dewar and I, magically, the person who's turned out, the person who has to have a ward written about her, we're in the same one, and that leaves a new Ward 6 completely open, created, so, it is what it is, but I won't be voting for it and thought it was a sad process. So that's that. 0 Riverside, no, 1,000 Riverside, 1,000.
150.
No,
Fire,
Rhonda's,
1,200.
1,200. 1,200 Riverside. Rhonda, through a public records request, gave me a stunning Zoom meeting, 1 hour, about 3 weeks after the fire, which we're coming up on the 1-year anniversary of, held by a battalion chief with maybe 20 firefighters on the phone, everyone from probationary employees to battalion chiefs, talking about what a bad response they did. Absolutely acknowledging what a bad response they did. I've not had the pleasure of having the chief or the manager explain to me what lessons they've learned. So my confidence is really broken in one, that they have the ability to respond to high rises, rebuild high rises. And that 2, some other protocols, some changes that were made, like getting rid of these little binders everyone used to carry in their trucks and moving it onto an automated thing. You know, I don't like get enough in the weeds, but that really came out as what happened, because when you hear these people in their own words talk about how they could find this, that, and the other thing, makes you wonder. So, Rhonda, and I know she was such a good partner on this board, and you all can reach out to Tyler, who can forward you what Rhonda sent to me, because I got it from Rhonda, to get it from, the city manager. And he has not had a conversation with me or the chief about, you know, what happened that night, but Rhonda hopes to be in her building within the 1-year anniversary. I've asked to be able to come over and see her unit then. And, you know, she's just really sad, and one unit is sold at least for a fire sale limit. So it's a very, very devastating fire, and I just, you know, I want everyone to know that fire, that displacement, now these units, you know, are getting rebuilt to the same degree that the Palm Range fire. I mean, I think more people were displaced in that one by Palm Range and Pine Haven. I haven't had the numbers, because I haven't had the opportunity to have the chief, but I want people to understand the magnitude of that incident. And if you watch this hour video, you will be stunned by what happened.
Jenny, are there votes for fire apparatus budgeting the next meeting?
The meeting is, and in my briefing, I asked the chief, are these the right apparatus? Or do you need these other apparatus? Mainly ladder trucks, because y'all didn't have a ladder truck when he came. Didn't even know how many storage were you going. He said, no, we have enough ladder trucks. There was a terminology problem with dispatch and battalion chief who owned it. All of the firefighters on that night owned, you know, their serial errors. And also talked about what, you know, what was done, but he says they've got the apparatus they need. But those are the kind of questions that I do need to know, and he's told me he has apparatus, so I probably won't bring it up at the meeting. But I did ask that question because I have a briefing before the agenda comes off, and that happened, or it comes to public. So 0 Riverside. That one is in a negotiated terms with the builder. I supported that ultimately when I could get a higher price from my colleagues for them. And I had a meeting with them the other day to talk about, you know, some concerns, but I want to see that property built. Everyone wants to see that property built. 1200 Riverside wants to see that property built, and I have confidence that it will get built, so that's good. Stevenson is off the agenda. That is not one where the council's sitting as a judge in a quasi judicial capacity. So I will be having a meeting with them, but was not gonna have a meeting with them if they're moving forward with the application. But since they pulled it off and want to meet with me, I'll meet with them. Special events, we talked about that with Lieutenant Di. The construction season, it was a doozy in Ward 1. It really, really was. I think California Avenue's about done. It's looking great. Yeah, it's a rough one. I mean, I even walked through there Saturday and we're still working on it. They decided that they're gonna use freeway, markers in neighborhood streets on one way, so it's Gordon and Nixon. They've got freeway on-ramp, one-way signs. And people find those very distasteful, and I don't think engineering is gonna get an idea on that. As a city planner, I know if I walk into a neighborhood and I see bars all over the neighborhood on the windows, I know there's a crime problem. If I go into a neighborhood and I see big freeway markings pointing you in one direction, I think there's a little bit of a circulation problem. And so they really did overkill there. A number of people have complained about that. And then I haven't been out West 4th Street. How close is Mason Park?
I hazard to guess at this point because it seems like it just keeps taking forever and ever and ever.
I think they went to night work.
They've been doing flagging operations 24/7. It takes 20 minutes to get out of the neighborhood almost every day. And the big thing is they left Mason Park closed.
Yeah,
They were-
I covered that a couple of weeks ago. People have asked me about that secondary access on Mayberry and open that, and I don't think the papers came on council. That is not gonna be able to be open. It's not a good open.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I went on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
And it could not safely carry to the traffic.
It's emergency when we get it out of there. And then the last one, there is a very good active neighbor trying to work through the bureaucracy to get a speed bumps over on Lakeside Drive, around Virginia Lake, where there's so much compliance. Do we have any update on that?
Last I heard from Public Works, the speed bumps were approved by the fire department. It's on a Fever. It's a primary emergency vehicle route. Normally traffic calming isn't permitted, but in this case, in this specific area on Lakeside, it was needed. So they've finished the design and I believe they've added it to their list for neighborhood traffic calming. And the last update I got was that it would likely be next summer when they were looking at installing it. But of course,
Kind of around the
that could
lake.
change. Yeah, it's Lakeside, right around the lake. In the
West side.
area where it's,
West
yeah,
side. Yeah.
in that area where it's 15.
Yeah, and I congratulate the fire chief, that's always a sensitive one, is, you put those in on these routes, but an enlightened fire chief saying, hey, I'd rather be what am I gonna slow down when I go to a call? Or am I gonna be doing calls where you have traffic head in, So, a lot of these light fire chiefs who also know that, places like Boston, it's your Mason all over, will get the religion and go with that. So that's that. There is, just to let you know what I've been, dealing with, at the office is, some homeless camps, some RV camps. Dickerson Road's a hotspot, Blue Street Bridge is a hotspot. A little bit of leftover from the winter flooding in some streets that are in disrepair and getting those up on the queue. And then just some other things, some weed issues, something up on Susseline or something at Zero Riverside. So some long weeds, some homeless encampments, some other infrastructure problems. What else, Tyler, have we been doing?
Zero Lakeside is another weed issue. But
Yeah.
like you mentioned, it's just been on occupied vehicles, abandoned vehicles.
Yeah.
Especially the last week, 2 weeks after Burning Man.
Yeah.
We've seen a
Yeah,
pretty big tick up of occupied RVs. But we're tracking that and RPD is aware and we're working with our parking enforcement and code to
yeah.
help address some of those.
Yeah, I was just doing some research for something and saw a video by a LA City Council member. And been reading the Times too, they have these called van lords. You know, like landlords, they call them landlords. And so some people even lease out RVs and they're all over, and even LA's towing capacity is very minimal. And so getting your towing capacity stood up is really a challenge. And they do, you know, fire are concerns in these, especially as you get into winter. I've come across ones that burn up. So, so we really do need to get that in order. And frankly, you know, we need a parking division, a parking commission. That was in the master plan, never got done. So there's a lot of room to do the mundane stuff related to parking, but that's all I have for y'all. I'm trying to think what's on the agenda is, we do have a Ward 1 appeal. I haven't really studied it too much, about secondary access up off Sun Ridge. Someone wants to have a condition. But
I do agree.
yeah, the condition, yeah, I need to get an understanding on that, so that's gonna be before us Wednesday. The, to grant or not grant is upheld the non-granting of a privileged license to a downtown market, and then, yeah, a bunch of other things too, so that's about it. Anyone have any questions for me? Great. I agree with you on the redistricting, that was.
But at 6, not like the way it happens.
Yeah.
But at 6, don't like the way it happens.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, you're gonna talk about the plan.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about the cleanup. We'll move officially moving on to item A6, staff liaison report. One quick update before we talk about the cleanup. The next Ward 1 Neighborhood Advisory Board meeting will be on Monday, October 9th.
Is
So
that Indigenous Peoples' Day?
mark your calendars. I don't know.
Yes, it is.
Is it really?
I don't know if that's a holiday or not.
Oh, it is. I'll check and see if it's a holiday. I don't know if we get a day off because it's Nevada Day. We normally trade with Indigenous Peoples' Day, but I'll find out and of course I'll let you all know
Yeah.
what happens there. Thank you for letting me know. We did have a Ward 1 community cleanup. It was at Equilodra Elementary again. They changed the marketing tactics a little bit because the first time the traffic was a little intense. So this time they tried to more narrowly focus on residents in that area to help the people who are being affected by the traffic get the benefit of the community cleanup. We'll have some more statistics coming out from our Housing and Neighborhood Development Department as far as, you know, actual yards of trash. But again, it was normal waste management waste, e-waste, and hazardous waste. And we're going to be doing 2 per ward per year. So, you know, 1 cleanup in the fall, 1 in the spring for each ward. So the next Ward 1 community cleanup will be sometime in the spring. So keep an eye out for it. Of course, I'll let you all know. And I also recommend you subscribe to the Ward 1 Neighborhood Advisory Board newsletter. If you go to reno.gov/newsletters, you can sign up for that, and we send notices out for these sorts of things and opportunities for residents.
The fall cleanup, does that include yard waste and these?
So it doesn't include yard waste, and they don't take green waste. They don't take green waste. It's hazardous waste, e-waste, so things like gasoline or paint or like flat screen TVs, old batteries, printers, and then
Did that pass or with the dates coming up? I can't remember because I did read about it.
that one. So the last Ward 1 community cleanup, I think was it last weekend or 2 weekends ago?
2 weeks.
2 weekends ago. But the next one will be in the spring, so we'll make sure to get you all the date, but they'll be recurring, you know, every 6 months or so. And then, of course, there's still upcoming ones in different wards, so if you miss the opportunity, you can look up City of Reno community cleanups. And you can find the dates for other wards. There's no ward requirement. They don't check your ID. You can go to any ward if you've got stuff you want to drop off.
Sort of on that issue of cleanups, is there a priority list or schedule for the goats?
The goats are done,
Yeah, I think. the
but
goats
the
are done.
other side of the canyon that was gonna get done, and we're talking about Rosewood. I forget which one of the Rosewoods, there's 3, is gonna be Handles.
Yeah, there's a FEMA grant coming.
Is there any other, looking at some of the other ravines that are backing up to homes?
Have not had the opportunity to speak to the fire chief about that. Maybe it's another good follow up.
If you send me an email, Gary, the areas I can pass it on to her.
Is fire or pushing up here again?
I think they're scheduled for a future meeting, but I'll find out.
let's get
I'll
them-
make sure.
Yeah,
that's
tell them this is on the list of things.
What's probably we'll talk about 1,200 and make much.
What's the best way for, like, shopping carts that have been thrown in a watery ditch on West Fourth Street? I mean, that whole, if I were younger, I would organize. This, parts would be really facing all of that stuff. But it's, who's responsible for picking up the massive amount of litter that's on the side of the road or around the fence on West Fourth Street? Do I call someone? Do I say, these carts said that water in the ditch has been there for months? I don't know how to go about to try to clean up West Fourth Street from Keystone to McCarran.
Yeah, so what I always recommend is for people to put things in through Interdirect. And it sounds like you're familiar with that.
There's a whole loop in that you're supposed to, they suggest you do it online, but you can't find the location. So every time I send an email down, please use that one. Can't, because I can't say it's 100 feet, because I get out and measure and to make it easy for them to find it. But there's no way for me to locate it when you go on remote online. I can't type in.
Like in the last, the same month. I have found there's a drop in here button, in your Brown mobile, that's not easy to find, but it's there, it works. It once. So when you're on mobile, there's a feature to drop in here, because I've been in the same, when they first rolled the new site.
Yes,
it's there.
yes.
And when I use that myself.
And what does it do?
It drops a pin and gives it GPS coordinates, so you don't have to say it's 200 feet west of this address or whatever, it just drops a pin. And then they map it on the map and you can continue.
I think, well, there was a huge camp for probably 2 years as you get around the corner right for those new apartment complexes that are on the right. And every time they sent me a map, it was not on the map, couldn't show them where.
It's become very unfriendly, and they also would let you do anonymous if you wanted to follow up and track. So it's really right there, a way to just, cut down on people reporting. So my office has a practice, you just email me and Tyler can send it on.
You've been great, by the way, my 2 years.
Yeah, thank you, I appreciate that.
So you can, if you're having trouble with Interdirect, you can always email me or call me. But you can email me or call me and I can help you either fill it out or I can just go out and see it on your Interdirect if it's like a weird spot or something.
Yeah, and that's a tough area too, because you got, it's NDOT controlled, managed, and then you've got railroad. So that is tough. So just, don't worry.
Is there ever a conversation about it not just being the fact that, it one turns into 10 and then it's a garbage, everything you about public safety, just the tier, does it come under public safety?
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah, well, it's different factors, really.
Yeah, because remember there, for months I tried to get this guy off on into the bridge and I took a picture of him dumping his
Yeah,
bucket.
Yeah,
Remember,
yeah.
At night.
Yeah, no,
So that's when something fine.
yeah, we need to talk to,
Okay,
get to the clean state.
And they'll send me something that they cleaned up, that is case closed, and I'll go back and it's still there.
We'll help with those two. So if you
Okay,
can, anything like that, just send me an email.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You can always escalate things to Councilmember Breakfast's office. Yeah. Any other questions for my update? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. I think that moves us to 23.
Yes, it does.
Oh, yes, now, we're not calling it the here, we're calling it 501.
501, yeah, Riverside.
I received, an email from our city manager's office. Tyler, where is that?
Um,
You get lost in my,
inbox,
no, not, well, yeah, remember my,
yeah, I'm trying to remember.
is it a council memo?
I don't, let me check and see if it was a memo, because if
Yeah.
it is, I can just pull it up.
We've had, he and I have had, different, sorry, I'm not just comparing this, you know what, maybe, let's go to why don't you go to the development request and
You
then,
gotta be for it.
yeah, do you see it in there, Tyler?
Let me see, I thought it was in here. No,
Did it come from Cali?
I think it might have come from Cal, it's just part of a briefing, do you want me to try and pull it up?
Oh, maybe part of the briefing, you're right, yeah. Yeah. Might be in the trash. Tyler and I share it, he has access to my inbox. So. Why don't we do the development one and then we can,
We can do that, and we'll
Yeah.
play with this
and
later.
Tyler and I, sorry,
In the meantime, if we can move to item. Before two.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chase Whittemore. I'm an attorney partner with Argentum Law, representing the applicant. Bridge 33 Capital, which owns 1296 East Plum Lane. That's the Airport Square Shopping Center. This is a request for a conditional use permit. The proposed use is for a tavern use at Dottie's location. At this site, I think you can go next slide, please. Thank you. What we're talking about here, I'm sure everybody knows the Costco, but it's East Plum Lane and Harvard Way, very near to 580. You have access off of Harvard Way going north right in. Up here you have a left out on the Harvard Way, a left in to the site, and a right in, right out. This is the subject site, proposed Dottie's right here. We've got a Capital Capital One, AT&T's over here, Capriotti's, just to give you an idea of some of the tenants. This is the Costco, more furniture for less. And then right here, you have a right out on Plum Lane only. There's no left out on Plum Lane. So a lot of ingress and egress. As you can see on this map, there's 906, a lot of parking, 968 standard parking spaces. And an additional 32 accessible parking spaces. That's 1,000 parking spaces. There's 4 bicycle parking spaces as well. The zoning on this site is general commercial, and it's in the master plan designation of suburban mixed use. You can go to the next slide, please. The total site is 17 acres. It's, I want to say it's about 171,000 square feet of rentable square space. And again, a lot of ingress and egress off Plum Lane and Harvard Way. We went through the parking already. Go to the next slide, please. Again, there's the tenant mix. You've got one Nevada credit union, a lot of restaurants, a lot of retail establishments. There's the urban air down at the bottom of the site next to Costco, and more furniture for less. You can go to the next slide, please. Again, this is for a bar tavern. This would require a conditional use permit. It is zoned general commercial zoning. We're asking for 15 machines. These would be in the bar top. The restricted gaming for 15 machines is permitted accessory to a bar tavern per code. This includes package alcohol sales, and that is accessory use to the bar tavern. And then the restaurant is permitted by general commercial zoning. The site is approximately 4,000 square feet, or not the site, but the premises for this use. It has a maximum occupancy of approximately 180 patrons, and they must be 21 years or older. There's approximately room for 28 dining seats. And again, the number of gaming devices would be 15, and it's all contained within the bar top. Hours of operation would be 24/7. Next slide. Here's the conceptual elevation outside. And just give you a little bit kind of where that is in the site is the east north of the airport shopping square. You keep going down towards more furniture for less in the shopping center towards Costco, you'd see like Benson and Bingham law office on the left right there. I think that's the last slide. Is there another slide? I think that's.
Nope.
Yeah.
That's not fun.
That's our presentation. We also have counsel for Dottie's here. If there are any specific questions for Dottie's. Yeah, so. Does any board members have any question or Councilwoman Breakfast?
Yeah, I'm gonna be like in a battle with every gaming attorney in Nevada, because the term tavern does not exist in the Marina Development Code, correct?
I believe actually there is
Put it in tavern now?
it says bar/tavern.
Okay, he did the Las Vegas thing. Cause it really has been a gaming construct and people are so confused about the two ordinances working in tandem. And unfortunately, you know, maybe a good settle to put bar/tavern, but it has a distinctive gaming use. And so I don't know what,
Typically, yeah.
yeah, maybe we'll hear from staff. You're gonna talk a little bit, right, about the use,
About
bar tavern.
bar lounge tavern use specifically.
Yeah, so what's the definition of it?
I can,
Yeah.
and it is bar lounge or tavern is the use.
Okay, so we did when we changed it, because it was really a Las Vegas concept, really in the gaming, not so much in the zoning use. I know it's a minor permutation. It seems very nitpicking, but it has some differences. What's the definition?
For the record, Carter Williams is.
Yeah.
Designer. So bar lounge or tavern, an eating and drinking establishment which sells alcoholic beverages for consumption on the premises in which the sale of food or food products is secondary. The establishment may also authorize the sale to consumers only and not for resale of alcoholic beverages in original sealed or corked containers for consumption off the premises where the same are sold. A bar, lounge, or tavern may be operated in conjunction with a live entertainment use. The use does not include any use defined under adult business.
Under what?
Adult business.
Okay, and then how's the gaming come in as an accessory use?
The gaming is an accessory restricted use.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, I heard that right. It is a gaming establishment with food as a secondary operation.
The use definition is acknowledges that the food may not be served, and it differentiates it from a restaurant with alcohol use, where food is the primary component, has to be served at all times that alcohol is served.
Okay.
It's only 15, I'd like to say, slot machines,
Just the 15 slots that are your meeting.
and of the slots in the
How many
bar.
games?
Correct, yes. Yeah, they'd be located bar top only.
And what's the definition of restricted gaming as an accessory use?
One moment.
Just the number of games is.
Like just the number of games, well. You know, it also ties to a use, I bet.
Yeah, there are additional standards associated with
Yeah.
restricted gaming so that it's not, it's differentiable from a casino or.
Yeah.
A non-restricted
But
use.
an earlier iteration of the code and not that long ago allowed it essentially to go into a lot of other places restricted. We have it in gas stations, we have them in laundromats, we have them, you know, did they cut down on that?
No, it still matches where it's allowed for the state. And we're actually broader than the state's required restrictions. So the state restricts certain uses to the number of units even further.
Yeah.
But we do not do so.
Yeah.
with that.
Okay. But we did drop in the tavern use, which is, you know, I don't know, I don't know.
Yeah,
I just, now it's synonymous with bar.
Should I read?
No, I think that's, yeah, that's helpful.
I guess it seems like it's really different use for that shopping center.
Yes, there's no other 24-hour establishments in there. That's correct. There are other restaurants, and bars in that shopping center, but this will be the first 24-hour, 7 days a week. use.
The two neighbors. The two people
Uh, you-
living there is what I mean.
You have to go across Plum to where, school is.
So there's like a restaurant
Or-
right there.
Yeah.
You thoroughly named, but it's never been there, but you market that's in there. Swift Road or Silver Road.
So, yes, yep, right.
Where's that?
It's in the same shopping square. Yeah, it's non-typical food items that you buy.
Middle Eastern Mediterranean.
Yeah,
So I'm sorry, you represent the property owner?
yes, yeah,
The property, the shopping center.
correct.
Obviously, the property is.
Well, an aside to that, Costco is really concerned, because we hear from the manager about that street crossing over there.
That one,
Yeah,
Or
like over here.
over here,
yeah, they're very concerned about that.
this is for the gas station. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is a write-in only,
Yeah,
and then up here is where you have the left out and the left in.
no, but he has a parking lot there for his employees, and he's very concerned, he wanted the little orange flags to be put across, and the city would do it. So we suggest you go buy flags and sell them for them.
Across, right here.
Yeah.
This.
Yeah,
I mean, I grew up here my whole life. I feel like I remember that used to be, flags used to be there.
flags.
Little,
Yeah, they have some up in the northwest. They're popular in some communities. And for whatever reason, traffic engineering denied it. And I'm like, just go buy your own flags. And,
I'll bring that up with my client.
Yeah.
See what they
so
say.
is your plan on the lot across the way
That I don't know. I would have to ask.
where the gas station is? Is it the?
I'd have to ask.
Yeah, you don't know.
I don't
Yeah,
know. But I'll bring that up.
yeah. Costco doesn't seem really happy.
What are the any feedback from the other tenants about having bodies there?
I've received none. Yeah, I don't have any. Guys, has any or not, but yeah, I have not seen any comments from any of the other tenants.
For the record, Seth Carlson, and people, we haven't received any feedback on the radio.
Was they even noticed anyway? Is there any requirement to notice?
Not outside of the regular process. I mean, it's
So they all
here,
got, so they all got a little yellow mail card?
I would
Is that what it
believe,
is?
I think
Is
it's
it
gonna
just
be
out
part of
here?
the requirements.
Individual businesses would not be unless they own the property.
Yeah, go there.
So no,
So who's that? Nice or you?
my client,
Oh, okay, yeah. So
Bridge 30.
So they-
those would go ahead, those
So
would
they,
go,
so
yeah.
neighbors don't know it's happening.
Yeah.
So within that, yeah,
But they lease, so.
it's, there's a lot of, a lot of requirements in each lease. I'm sure that some of the uses might have a say, like Costco might have a say in the lease. I haven't looked at every single lease, so I couldn't tell you.
In Costco particularly, they do own their properties, they would.
Oh, they do?
Yes. So Costco and the gas station, it's owned separate from the.
Oh,
That's interesting.
Well, I guess they know that.
Yeah, it's like, did you bring the use to know that there's gonna be a gaming establishment next door?
Right, most of the time, pardon me, that's not really a matter of contract, it is another tenant negotiated. Certain rates so that they can, a certain type of tenant. And whereas
Yeah. Yeah, but so I'm trying to understand. Costco, how big is Costco's parcel? That blue one. Just the pad, just the building pad?
They own the building pad, no, they own the parking area as well, a portion of the parking area.
Oh, a portion of the park.
Yeah.
Gosh, I remember that game.
I said, oh, that must have been years ago, do it. I mean, Costco's been here a long, long time.
They have, I thought they were always tenants.
Half insured forever.
Yeah, it used to be out by Springs.
Are there any other comments from the board on this development?
I don't think that many.
I think you go to planning commission, they don't go to city council also.
Yeah, just fine.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
I do have a question for you.
Uh-huh.
I noticed I was doing some paperwork. Probably 9 months ago, maybe a year ago. My permits have changed for liquor and cabaret. They're listed differently, and I called a few times, but I never
Huh,
got any information back on that. So since they brought it up, it just.
Yeah. Are they like Q or something and not, is that?
No, it's broken down separately. It used to be one line item, and now it's broken out separately, cabaret and liquor.
Really? I'm surprised they were always together, but you know, it's kind of, I'm not in the weeds that much. I do know that liquor has gone up. They really put liquor up in this budget. I did not support that because there hadn't been a dialogue with the community, but I always thought they were separated out.
Last year, they became separated.
Yeah, because they were always two different licenses. They always had two different numbers.
Right, but one of them now has 2 line items instead of it just being.
Yeah,
together.
okay.
And I was just wondering.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I wanted to look into that for you if you wanted,
Oh, so.
you know, a lot of people.
Never should.
Drop their pathway and keep their liquor, you know, and so I always thought they were broken.
Yeah, I believe. Maybe it's something else that in combination with, liquor. I'd have to look at the license again, but I called on it a couple of times.
Yeah.
And they said they were going to send me a thing, because they have a thing.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
they,
What are
apparently.
you carrying liquor for? Is it, in service, at a bar? So it's dining, you know, they break that down, dining room, right?
We don't have dining, but, I'd have to.
On-site service, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Cause there's beer and wine and then there's food, right, too.
For our minute taker, I think we've moved into item C, board/commission committee member reports and announcements. And if you put that in an email, I'll follow up with our business licensing manager and see what's going on. Are there any other reports under item C? Okay. You want to move to item D, Mr. Chair?
We do B3.
I think we did do item B3. Oh, no, you're right. We should move back to item B3. Lear.
Yeah.
Yeah. The 501 Riverside.
Not calling you through there.
It was, well, because it was,
Mrs. Blair gave $1 million.
they never gave enough, yeah.
They gave it back to her because they never did what they said they were gonna do.
Did they really give it back to her? Okay.
Now she got it back.
I did not know that. Okay, so the manager has told me, and he didn't meet with me, I got an email. That they're going to, do something with this. And it's not gonna be a discussion of the council to give direction and plan, so the manager,
What's he
feels,
gonna do?
well, let's see. Tyler,
I think
we know all this background,
So here is this great spot covered with.
building needs, standards are set. Council, Tyler, go to the back. Council allocated $1 million in ARPA funding for fence and landscaping. I always wondered about that, because I thought maybe the city should do a programming effort, you know, what are we gonna program it? But they have a, estimate of $7 to $10 million for adaptive reuse. A few developers and event promoters have expressed interest. I know that because one time I was riding my bike down Riverside Drive, and there was a bunch of staff meeting with a developer.
So the council's not gonna have any input into this?
He is not gonna daylight, here, let's continue on. Language of historic buildings. Historic gas. This is options. He's put it out in RFQ. To start the historic preservation plan. Invite a short list of developers to submit proposals, select winning proposal, enter into redevelopment. I do have a little bit of a problem with this, actually, I have a huge problem on this. That, this is not a discussion of the council, of how we wanna go about it. I'm being told how it is, and now I'm passing on to others how I've been told it's gonna be. And how it's gonna be is, is that RFQ out? All of the RFQs are on the city website.
I don't know if it's out yet or not.
You can go to the city finance department and see if it's out. I'd like to read that, because I haven't seen a copy of that. And,
So they have to keep the building because it's on.
yeah, they're gonna, yeah. There's a way to get around that. But you have to pay back money, but it's highly discouraged. But, that would be, if it went to council, that would be some of the notes that how we're gonna do. So, it's unclear. It's not going to the council, is my understanding. That's your understanding, right, Tyler?
I don't know. I
Until it
wasn't on
goes
this group.
into a development agreement, when it's all cooked and done. So I just want I'm just letting everyone know how it's going, so.
It's unable to be used inside.
Who we vote on?
Outside is unusable.
Yes, unsigned is unusable right now. It's not that, it's not that bad, it's just how to go up, the city bought it. We're paying our town for it, and the manager has a plan about how he's gonna go about. Getting it used, enter into an agreement with the development,
It's like he did with zero.
Yeah, so that's how it's gonna go, this came in my inbox, I was told, now I'm spreading that word to others. And,
You said you have to remain city manager.
yeah, and I will be keeping an eye out for this request for qualifications, because that's how I know about it. I don't think it's very transparent, or very, well baked or thought out, but. What, that's just my, it's my belief, and I'm sharing what I've been told with people. So I will, maybe at our next meeting, have an update too, and let people know if it's, what's going on with the RFQ.
Are there any comments from board members on this item?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. I mean, what are they gonna do with the interior? What's the plan? I mean, this whole thing.
It's turning into like a skating rink, are they gonna? turn it
Yeah, I
into
mean,
like
this
a
is-
Grow factory for, like, what are they
I
gonna
mean,
do?
a marijuana house, I mean, what the hell?
License dispensary in town?
It could be.
The Dotties.
Hey, at least they do the maintenance on it, they love to put it in there.
It would be
And we know.
Well, they've got $1 million for the fencing and the landscaping, and that's the last time the council discussed 501 layer, 501%.
Who is it by the movie?
Yeah, well, it's historical, but it was, designed and built, it's a big deal.
Yeah,
Yes,
I mean,
Yes,
it's a big
it's
deal.
quite a big deal because,
it's such a great place.
well, the architect has really had his moment too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Of course.
All right,
Future items.
okay, future agenda items.
I would like something included about homelessness in town. Maybe something from the CARES campus and. Yeah, there's been a huge.
This county.
I can always ask them to come, we've asked people like NDOT to come before, I can't of course make them, but I'm sure if I reach out
Make a
and
request.
just let them know that the NAB's interested in hearing something. Do you have any specifics on homelessness, like an update on?
Well, I've just noticed an influx in Midtown. Where I come out at night and there's more people pushing carts and various things of that nature.
That was one of my questions, is there not, and I've said to other people, a no shopping cart ordinance for the city of Reno? I was told that years ago, that
The city does have a contractor vendor that goes around and picks them up. Pretty sure that's still in place. Hey, Tyler, maybe we should have the clean and safe team
I
come
would love that.
talk about that rather than the cares. Cause did the community homeless advisory board meet today?
They met this morning, yes.
And what was on their topic? Was it the cares camp? They're more focused on the cares. camp.
I'll defer to Justin because he was there this morning.
Yes, there was a lot of talk about the CARES campus this morning, but, it was hard to get, good information from them. They seemed more interested in patting each other on the back about what a wonderful job they're doing than providing actual information.
Was it safe for people to take a tour of the campus yet?
No,
Because if it's not safe to give, I don't know, a county commissioner a tour, it's probably not safe.
it was recommended the county commissioners go down there and spend a night or two themselves to find out how unsafe it was.
Wow.
I thought Carrie's had a lot of, coverage there with other people. I don't know.
They're working on a lot of things and Dana went over the various phases. She was the most informational part of it, but I'd like to hear more about what's going on around other parts of town rather than just them explaining what Care Campus does, but how they're going to help to service the rest of the area instead of, oh, we're just gonna herd them down to the Care Campus. So
Okay, yeah.
that's more specifically.
Maybe say, what's the strategic plan to deal with homelessness as opposed to playing become black?
Well, then that is probably more the discussion they got interested in. I mean, you're more informed than I am on this at this point, because, so, you know, the clean and safe is more encampments and activities, but maybe Tyler
Which is probably where I'm seeing.
is what you want to see.
It is where I'm seeing the increase.
Okay,
I don't see them, and then I see a lot of people being displaced from around the train tracks, and they seem to be moving towards Midtown now
okay,
instead of
okay.
further down in other
Okay.
areas. So,
Because, you know, the ambassadors are around, the other people are around, they're trying to get out of there. So if you don't want anything to do with them, you bring your own stuff over here.
we're starting to get there. I know it's just
Yeah,
We'll get a handle on
yeah,
it.
I'll put in a request and see who would be the best person to
Yeah.
come out and maybe
Yeah.
present
Yeah,
to it,
'cause-
see if they're willing, and we can get that hopefully on a future agenda.
Yeah. Okay.
Are there any other
They
items?
tend to build tracks when you want to know data, and you don't want to just do the whole good spirit thing.
Yeah,
Because I'm all
I-
good with it.
I know how they are. I've dealt with the homeless for a very long time in the various businesses
I live too far.
that I worked for. I mean, corner of Rock and Victorian and Sparks. They're coming in and off the trains. I've worked on 4th Street for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think it was.
I'd like to see the comprehensive overall for
There's
this.
the city, I got the feeling that the city, when they supposedly everything was turned over to the county.
Yeah.
Well, not necessarily,
The city really screwed it up.
Well, that, I mean, I can understand that
Yeah,
release of having someone else now responsible for it
Yeah.
after all this stuff, but.
I think, because it might not happen for October might not happen. But maybe for November, we can understand the differences between the responsibilities too. Yeah, and actually another added is, the CAC, the former, Community Assistance Center, has been red tagged because it is uninhabitable. It is deteriorated,
Leopard Street.
yeah.
Yeah. they-
Deteriorated to such a degree that no one can use it anymore.
It used to be a fairly decent building.
It's a very new building, I mean.
The
all of us-
elevator doesn't work and the roof leaks. and
Well, we
it's
all
coming.
probably live
causing
in
damage
homes
inside.
older than that, so I don't know how many buildings deteriorated like
Yes.
that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah,
yeah,
Whose building is it?
it's the cities,
So why don't they repair it?
that's a great idea,
I mean, to me, it was being used very well. for a
yeah,
long time.
yeah, yeah.
and
I think we can talk about that
Yeah,
when we
yeah,
add
we'll
it
get
to
this,
a
we'll
future
ask,
agenda.
yeah, yeah.
Are there any other agenda items we want to add for future meetings?
Urban farming.
Okay.
Would like to, so specifically, I found on someone's website, that they have some distinction about uses of water, commercial, resi, horticulture, that kind of stuff. I did reach out to one of the county commissioners and he was kind of like, why are you talking to me about it? But it would be interesting to know what rules are in place and why they're in place. On the surface, it seems like something that we should be supportive of and encourage, but maybe there's.
We have a connection with some of the urban farms in Reno, like Urban Roots, and I can reach out to them and see if they're interested in presenting, and of course, reaching out to the city and seeing what the rules are in the ordinances that regulate that.
Yeah, I mean, even now that, somebody has an acre or two within the city and they wanna grow stuff and put.
the woman with the vineyard, the idea, yeah.
Yeah, I can look into that for a future agenda.
Appreciate it.
It's a good idea. Anyone else?
The bird scooters.
Scooters.
Well,
Bird scooters, has it been a year until we get it?
Revenue's up, we're getting a penny.
it got amended, that agreement, I should have given that announcement, that agreement got amended.
What?
To, give a penny. I did not vote to support because I wanted a full audit of it, particularly as how many the fleet is and. You guys out there, the fleet, I found so many blockages right out here, I've got photos. It's really, but it was deemed not to be a point of negotiation, so it did come to the council, it was amended. We can amend it anytime, but I won't be asking for it on the agenda because I haven't been successful in getting items on the agenda. I mean, we can talk about it here, but maybe it's better,
Somebody goes down there and races the.
maybe we just get this study here to everyone. Cause
That,
they were, what was it? How many complaints were there?
I don't remember off the top of my
It
head.
was a lot.
It's
like 11. Was it? There were a lot of complaints.
I can send when I find the report, I can distribute it to the
Yeah.
members in between.
Yeah, read it and then,
Read it,
yeah,
and then in the future meeting, we can
Yeah.
discuss exactly.
sorry, I should have mentioned that. Kate.
I'm just wondering how quickly it's going to go downhill considering, somebody on Fourth Street found a way to snap the top of it and rewire it so that you don't have to do anything. So probably not gonna last too much longer.
Solve.
TikTok.
Yep, I'm not disseminating that information.
Holidays,
Are there any other future agenda items we'd like to add?
I got it.
He is in, so.
Yeah,
I'm pretty-
yeah.
I'm okay. Excited.
I've been overly talkative today.
Okay, we're gonna move on to item E, which is closing public comment. Is there anyone in the room who'd like to give closing public comment today?
I'm good at that, you.
Is there anyone on Zoom who'd like to give public comment? If you'd like to give public comment by Zoom, please use the raise hand button at the bottom of your Zoom window to indicate that. I'm not seeing anyone who wishes to register public comment, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. May I get a motion?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.